Okay, it says it's recording. You guys ready?
Yep.
Sounds good.
Welcome to the Crashing the Pearly Gates Zoom. Crashing the Pearly Zoom, perhaps. I'm a REV HALOFAN. We're joined today on the Angels off day by Brent McGuire. Hi, Brent.
How's it going?
By Jessica DeLine, our boss.
How you doing?
JDL, how you doing? Okay. Hey, and joining us all the way from, I think, Silver Lake, TURK'S TEETH.
All the way.
Red on red, guys. Red on red.
Hey, so we got a lot to talk about. Personally speaking, I'm a lot more confident in this team after what they showed they could do in the first two games against Oakland. I think we were all hoping for a sweep. They didn't get the third game on Wednesday, but, you know, a lot more confident than after that, getting that butt kicking in Texas. So let's start with the brutality of it all. TURK'S TEETH. Can the Angels contend in this weird season based on what they've shown so far?
Theoretically, they can. Well, I mean, this is obviously the weirdest season that we've ever experienced, certainly. I mean, the fact that we are 5 games below 500, but still 2 games out of second place kind of tells you where we're at, right? I mean, we're almost a third of the way into this weird bubble season, but I mean, everybody's underperformed outside of the A's, who have a fairly balanced team. I think we expected them to perform well, but then we just took a series with them as well. So anything could certainly happen. I think the offense is finally performing as we would expect it to. Certainly the top of the order, basically 9 through 4, looking great right now. Rendon's finally turned it on. Three games in a row with a home run. Trout is as ever. We've got Little Miracle Boy and Mr. Fletcher, and then Goodwin has finally shown that he was a first-round pick. He actually was chosen the same year that Bundy was. He was picked 34th in the first round then, and is showing actually he is a regular player, not just a substitute. So I think we have some interesting starting pitching. We've got a terrible bullpen. And we've got a good offense, which might just be 2/3 of the way there to bubble contention, I think.
On the bubble. Jessica DeLine, do you see it? I mean, should we just dump this whole team at the trade deadline and move about 2021, or can we contend?
We can dump the whole team that sits in the bullpen. I'm not too far off from what TURK'S TEETH just said there. I think there's the possibility of contention. There's a lot of things that need to go right. We've got some pitching issues. There's been moments of brilliance, sure. We'll talk about one of those pitchers probably later, right? So I'm not going to spoil the fun there. But there's certainly been moments of brilliance. We really don't have a super strong starting staff all around. Our bullpen has a lot of holes. There's a lot of holes in the bullpens, a lot of inconsistencies. The offense is the one thing that everybody was hoping to be good this year. And it's looking good. As we just said, Brian Goodwin is finally doing something, showing that he was a first-round pick. Tommy LaStella, I was a little bit worried that he'd have a down year this year. He's been doing pretty good. Everybody else pretty much throughout the lineup. Even Adele, I think, will come around. And, so I think maybe a little more than 3/4 of the way to being on the bubble. But I'm really not that far off of that. I'm not convinced that this is a team that could go deep in the playoffs. And I don't really want to get to the playoffs and get embarrassed right away like we did in 2014. So we'll see what happens.
So we got a 2/3, we got a 3/4. Brent McGuire, can the 2020 Angels contend for the World Series championship?
In this strange timeline that we're living in, I don't want to rule it out just because none of us have ever seen what the playoffs are going to look like this year. Look, I wouldn't bet that the Angels were going to win the World Series this year, but if they make it in the playoffs and you've got 16 teams trying to go at it in these shorter series, if the Angels are healthy, that literally could be all they need going into the postseason this year. So Turks and Jessica kind of touched on it. I mean, they're almost all the way there with a complete team. They've got the offense, they've got the defense, they've got kind of a starting rotation right now that's not, awful, historically bad. They're competent. They've got one of the best pitchers in baseball right now. The bullpen, not so great. But there's enough there. My only concern is the 7-12 start gonna be enough that keeps them out of the playoff picture? Turks kind of mentioned it, like they're only a couple games out of a playoff spot, so I wouldn't rule them out at all. It's just a matter of they need to start playing consistently good baseball from here on out. Their schedule's a little tricky. They play a lot of good teams, so that would be my one reservation. But there are 8 teams making the playoffs in the AL, and I have to believe that the Angels are going to be one of those teams.
I gotta believe we're one of those 8 teams, and I think with the playoff schedule this year, it is a crapshoot. So once you get in, just get in, and then see what happens. Anything could happen. Okay, the absolute shining star of the season so far, and right now the best pitcher in the American League is a Billy Epler pickup, a feather in the Billy Epler cap. I'm talking about none other than Dillon Bundy. Jessica DeLine, tell me about what you think of the performance of one Dillon Bundy as an Angel.
It's been amazing. Obviously, he hasn't had 18 starts, but he's looked really good. He's not going to probably maintain a 1-point-something ERA through the season, but I always thought he was a pretty solid pitcher, and his numbers never really showed it when he was with Baltimore. You look at some of his stats, some of his swing and miss rates, they've been pretty consistent throughout his career. His out of the zone swings on pitches have been pretty consistent throughout his career. They're really not much different this year than they've been with Baltimore. So I don't know if he just had bad luck, change of scenery, something's working for Dillon Bundy, and I hope it keeps working.
Right on, right on. Brent, you've watched the games. Are you excited about the Cy Young possibilities of one Dillon Bundy?
I am. And Jessica kind of touched on it. The change of scenery thing, I think, is huge. I don't think it's a secret that Baltimore has had a really difficult time trying to develop pitchers, not just because of their home ballpark and the fact that they play against the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Blue Jays, all these hitter-friendly parks, but he moved away from an organization that has just been notoriously bad at developing starting pitching. So the second the Angels acquired him, Dillon Bundy became an interesting pitcher. Now, I'll fully admit that I didn't expect this. I was definitely on board with Dillon Bundy improving the second that he left the Orioles, but I mean, what he's showing right now is incredible. I mean, I don't even think his biggest fan would have guessed that he would be leading baseball starting pitchers with FanGraphs wins above replacement after his first 4 starts. I mean, it's remarkable. The swing and miss stuff, the commands, I mean, everything has been there so far. And something that really encouraged me from his last outing, which I think is really important for a guy like Bundy, I think he's starting to mature into the pitcher that people thought he was going to become. So if you remember that first outing against Oakland, his first start as an Angel, he was you pretty much knew what he was going to do. It was fastball, slider against right-handed hitters, a little more of a 4-pitch mix against the lefties. The second time around, without even needing to have to make that adjustment, he was out there throwing right on right changeups. He was mixing it up with some sliders against lefties. So he was basically changing his game plan before the opposing hitters were changing to him. And I think that's huge because that unpredictability factor is super important. So you add all of it together, and I'm super encouraged by what he's shown so far.
Right on, right on. Hey, Turk's Teeth, should we, because we got a day of rest, could we throw Dillon Bundy out on Sunday against the Dodgers? We got a 3-game series coming up against the Dodgers. I mean, should we maximize the Bundyage use here?
I would definitely keep him on a schedule. I mean, I think I would ask to all 4 of us in the universe at large, like, who is Dillon Bundy? Right? I mean, I think people forget that 2011 he was drafted the 4th slot in the draft, and he was the best high school pitcher in the country. He won every single award there was. He, in his senior year of college, was touching triple digits. Within his first year, in the minors, his fastball was living at 97, 98. He is the premium example of a pitcher that was rushed out of need and over enthusiasm to the big leagues. Baltimore took him, put him in the bullpen at age 19, and he was again touching 98, and then by spring training he blew out his arm. And he's an example. We should think about Shohei Ohtani in this too. Not everybody comes back from TJ. You know, within 1 year, they had rushed him back to professional ball, and then he had a cascade of injuries, right? He had rotator cuff injury. He was never the same pitcher again. But, you know, as early as 2016, he was still touching 96 with his fastball. But year over year, that fastball was in decline. And I think he spent most of his career at Baltimore really trying to chase back, you know, his early velocity, be the pitcher that the fans expected him to be. And he never really fully embraced, you know, the junk ball genius he could be and is today. And now you really look like this year, this is the first year that he's thrown his fastball less than 50%, not only less than 50%, he's throwing it less than 40% of the time now. He's basically maximizing all of his off-speed pitches. The pitch value on every single one of his pitches now is plus. Even his fastball is neutral and is getting swinging strikes like it never did before, because the differentiation between his other pitches, people just can't pick it up. And his command is like extraordinary. So I think he finally has the license to completely reinvent himself and be a guy that lives at 91 with his fastball, but just like kills it with his command and his off-speed stuff. And we're really seeing the art of pitching here. I mean, I love the fact that, you know, even though it hasn't been consistent across all of the pitchers, we've got 3 or 4 pitchers now that are just, you know, artists, right? I mean, they're pitching artists. They live at the corners. They are not all about velocity. You know, if 3 of them can live up to their potential, it will at least be fun to watch as Angel fans, I think.
Dillon Bundy is fun to watch. You definitely nailed that one. A lot of great stats. The deeper you look, the better he's doing. Now, a player who's just starting out, he made his debut, hasn't been a superstar, even though that says advertised, but everybody needs development time, is JO ADELL. He's in the lineup. He's been in the lineup almost every day. He had a quad. They took him out the other day, but supposedly he's going to play almost every game at the expense of either Justin Upton or Brian Goodwin. But if we're on the bubble for a playoff, I mean, how much development do we sacrifice? How much potential playoff ranking do we sacrifice to make sure that we have a 2021 JO ADELL who is ready to go? Brent?
So luckily for JO ADELL, maybe not so lucky for the Angels, is Justin Upton basically looks like he's done right now. I mean, he's been out there and he's looked awful in every regard. So that makes the early struggles that ADELL has had kind of more acceptable. You can put him out there and give him as many at-bats as you want. You can keep Goodwin out there, let him play every day right now, but Upton has not shown anything that suggests that he's going to have a bounce back. So at this point, I say put ADELL out there, see what he can do. And I know that first week was rough. You can't sugarcoat it. It was really bad. I mean, we saw the Sunday game where he struck out 4 times. Obviously, everybody in the sports world has seen the ball hitting his glove, going over the fence. He's never going to live that down, even if he has like a Hall of Fame career. But fact matters, he's 21 years old. He's going to be fine. He needs this kind of time to get used to Major League pitching. And I think we touched on this last week. People need to remember that he didn't have a normal spring training. He didn't have minor league baseball. He needed seasoning in the minors, and he didn't get that. And he's being thrown into the fire right now. So we kind of knew that these struggles were going to happen. So at this point, because of the way that Justin Upton is playing, and because we know that JO ADELL could be a superstar in the next couple of years, you give him as much time as you need. Bat him 8th, bat him 9th, give him his occasional day off, but put him out there, see what he can do. Justin Upton happens to turn it back on, maybe you re-explore that option at that point. But right now, put ADELL out there, hope he turns it around and becomes a superstar.
Turk, what do you think? Do we just go gung-ho on JO ADELL?
Yeah, I would agree with Brent. I mean, he's had the roughest entry that I think you could possibly have for a high-placed prospect. I mean, you know, he's only had 22 plate appearances, 6 games, right? But he's struck out in 50% of them. Yeah, no, we can't even talk about launch angle. He's basically topping the ball, and every time he puts it in play, I think we saw our first fly out today, which is rather extraordinary. He is still making, when he does make contact, he's making hard contact in about 1/3 of his at-bats. But still, it's not what you want to see. I mean, beyond beyond the fact that this was really hard because there wasn't a conventional spring training, he still has 300 to 400 fewer plate appearances, minor league plate appearances than Trout did. And Trout was rushed to the minor leagues. You know, obviously Trout is a superior prospect. I don't think anybody questions that. But I mean, he really, Jo Adell really needed another half season in the minors. And we know he struggles every time he goes to a new level. He's always struck out more than 30% of the time when he went to AA, when he went to AAA for the first time. So he's going to have those issues, but he's also playing out of position. You know, he's typically been a center fielder. You know, he really lost his arm strength after a senior year of high school. It kind of disappeared. People don't know where it went. Somebody like Eric Longenhagen puts a 40 grade on his arm, which means he should be in left field. So he's taking bad routes to balls. I think like, you know, almost 40% of his opportunities. He's had some routine plays that he's missed. But it's just because he just doesn't know the field. He doesn't know that position. His arm's not really built for that position ultimately. He has to take over for what J-Up is doing right now. It's unfortunate we've got another 2.5 years on that contract because we probably should be putting Adell over in left field and just letting him learn there. But yeah, if it's J-Up versus him, of course we should embrace the future. And I'm even wishing for just the slightest bit of a hammy tweak for our good friend Big Al, so that we could maybe see like some, you know, Brandon Marsh experiment at first base, because it would be awesome to have 8 of our 9 players in the lineup just have pro speed, because then you could actually do small ball and some interesting Joe Madden ball.
Wow.
Nice.
So Jessica, I'll put the verdict with you. If we've got a week to play and a playoff spot on the line, do you want Jo Adell in the lineup if he's striking out 50% of the time?
Well, now you're putting a playoff spot on the line. That's a different scenario than if he should be playing right now. If a playoff spot is on the line and he's striking out 50% of the time, probably don't want him in the lineup.
Well, you got Taylor Ward and Justin Upton. They're probably going to strike out 75% of the time, though.
Fair point. That being said, I'm glad he's up. I think he should stay up. If there was a AAA this year, maybe he does spend more time there and get some more seasoning, but there's not. And that's going to hurt his development if he doesn't get the chance to play. So given the type of season this is, I think he needs to play. There's huge expectations on him because the last big prospect was Mike Trout. He's next to Mike Trout in the outfield. So I'm sure he's feeling it too. I'm sure he's pressing harder than he needs to be. And it's showing. As Turk said, he's getting on top of all the balls. He's not hitting them all hard. He's striking out 50% of the time. These are all things that not all top prospects do. Acuna, Soto, Tatis, they all came out of the gate on fire, and Adell hasn't. And I think there's a lot of different factors for that. The seasoning, the expectations with Trout, the playing out of position, a lot of stuff was already touched on. But that being said, I give him as much experience as possible. He needs it, and he could be a good part of this team's future.
Great. Well, that was the last word from our editor-in-chief, Jessica DeLine. Thanks everybody for joining us. Brent McGuire, Turk's Teeth. I'm Rev HaloFan. You can read us all and more Angel fan experts at CrashingThePearlyGates.com, the best blog for Angels fans in existence. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll do this next off day.
Bye.